One. Welcome to Get Tied On, racing fans. Tom Amello here with Michael Kipnis, the Wizard. It's Monday. We got a 5-day post-mortem for the Belmont Festival. And Michael, I think the first thing to say is that a Belmont Festival is pretty much like any 5-day week at Saratoga. 12K on Wednesday, 13K on Thursday, big day Saturday, and we had the Belmont 46,000, and 12K on Sunday. So it pretty much drew the same kind of crowd on the same kind of days, and that's certainly significantly more than they would pull in at the old Belmont. This was the final Belmont at Saratoga. We'll see what they pull in next year at the real, new, renovated Belmont.
Yeah, no, it was nice. I mean, it's always good to go up to Saratoga. It helps the community, the restaurants, get customers, a lot of people on the street. Uh, it's just a different feel always. Saratoga is there's nothing like it. And we had 5 really good days of that.
Yeah, and I've said for years that bankrolls are kept locked for the most part until the marquee screams live from Saratoga Racecourse, and then they get unlocked. And the handle showed that.
Well, the handle was actually down from last year. It was down substantially. And that's because the CAWs weren't in play because of the restrictions that Naira puts on.
But that was
The
an end that's an interesting phenomenon. Yes, Naira took a hit in order to help the retail players. And so it's a yin and yang, good for me, maybe maybe not good for me, Naira, but good for their customers.
Well, it shows you how much handle is involved with the
Oh,
CAWs because the people that boycott or don't play as much, and I mean, I talk to people, professional players that, don't play as much on the big days like at Derby Day or Oaks Day or when Laurel was in play for the Preakness. Now they're coming and playing with both hands because they know the CAWs and the odds are going to not drop, when they hit the quarter pole. But even with their money in, the handle was substantially down, which just shows you how much handle is actually being put into the pools by those CAWs.
oh, big guy. Michael, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the track surfaces for the 5 days. Um, Wednesday, a huge bias, an inside bias, a rail bias, a speed bias, and the turf course. And, I've driven by the track. I live here in Saratoga, and I've seen them watering the turf course on the main. But wow, firm and rock hard.
Yeah, I mean, the turf course was trimmed very low. It was like running on a paved grass highway. I mean, you can see it. It's a reflection of the times that were being set on the turf course. The inner turf course, it was very hard to close. Speed dominated on the inner turf. Um, on the main track, uh, it was just a strange track. I know when I ran walk with me when we were together that day, um, you know, it was tough to close. It was like a horse running on quicksand, in the
Mhm.
middle of the track that day. It, but then there were some of the times of these races especially on Saturday were extremely fast.
Yes.
I had uh, texted you and said, I haven't seen a truck out here for a few hours watering the track. And they did come out and grade the track and water the track midway through the day,
Mm.
right? And then, uh, but the turf course continued to be rock hard. And then when it did rain right before the Belmont and the last race at Saratoga, the track changed again, and it was just one of those weird 5 days of different track surfaces.
Well, the only thing we can say, the racing was interesting. The fields were large. A biased track is always great when you realize it and can adapt. Um, but what it really means is you got to rewatch those races and look for horses who were disadvantaged, who will run back in 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks when we're here back at Saratoga again.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do, handicappers, like looking for, um, you know, I didn't do well these 5 days picking. So I joined Todd Pletcher, who didn't do well either. He was 0 for like 20 something. He didn't forget to train. He hit a slump. I didn't forget to handicap. I didn't pick well. I did have a few more winners than Todd Pletcher over the 5 days, but that's my job, and I didn't perform the way I nowhere near what I'm accustomed to. And there's no excuses. It just was 5 days that was I never had a rhythm. The track, I don't make excuses. Whatever it is, you always have reasons to lose, but there's only one way to win, and that is to win.
Well, it's the same thing in any professional sport. If you throw a a pitch in the first inning and it goes over the wall, it didn't happen. You got to forget it because maybe you have 3 or 4 or 5 more innings to do your thing. And so professional athletes perform, and when you don't perform well, you get past it.
And it happens to everybody.
And it happens to everybody. Absolutely. Um, let's talk a little bit about the races themselves and some of the performers. I think a name that we've got to mention and really begin to talk about is Miguel Clement. It's sad that his pop passed, but he has taken the mantle, and his horses ran very well these 5 days.
Especially deterministic, who won its fifth graded stakes race in a row, and a few of those were grade ones. I think that was obviously the highlight of Miguel Clement's 5 days and his winners. Tremendous ride by Kendrick Carmouche. Um, Clement had a great run this week.
Yeah, and I think you've got to pay attention to his stock. He prepares them well. He has good owners. He has good stock, and he knows how to place them.
Even in defeat, his horses ran well. One horse that comes to mind off the layoff was Botas, who did really well. Clement is one of those trainers that, he can win first time out on the turf going long. I mean, it's very hard to win under that scenario. He can
from
do
Daddy.
it. Yeah, he can do it.
Pops.
Yeah. Clement it's pretty amazing for a young man to step in to fill those big shoes. He certainly has done it more than satisfactorily.
Yeah. Your trainer, David Duggan, walked with me, ran well against the grain and in a tough spot, but he got a win in the finale on June 3rd, in race 10 with Blame It on KJ, who, along with jockey Javier Rodriguez, delivered what I think was the toughest beat of the meet in the lobbyist at 36-1, nipping him at the wire under a great ride in an interesting race.
He threaded the eye of the needle, and and he came through. He found that hole, and it was extremely narrow, and he got the job done. Jamie Rodriguez, he's really, since it's not easy to do what he's done, or any rider that loses their apprentice, and then becomes a journeyman. And he's carried the momentum forward to really being a rider that any trainer could use with confidence.
We'd be remiss if we did not mention Ways and Means and Grand Job.
Well, Ways and Means, it was a similar pattern as last year, winning this race, and Ways and Means, it remind me a lot like Bookham Dano. In the shadow of the wire, they find a way to win and beat very sharp horses, very high quality horses under great rides. And both Ways and Means and Bookham Dano kind of mirror image type races, nailing quality horses near the wire. Great races.
Nitrogen. You think this horse should just go back to turf?
I mean, the buyer number that I saw that he got was something like 116. It was ridiculous. We saw a few of those performances. We saw true, it wasn't a distance race, but the Englishman,
Yes,
for Cherie DeVaux, ran an unbelievable race.
yes.
I think it was, obviously those horses peaked at a great time. Nisos, another one that
Yeah.
ran a terrific race. They found a track surface they loved. They were prepared brilliantly by their trainer, and they delivered the goods on a marquee days.
Well, if you're delivering the goods, you got to talk about the guy who, he feeds folks in town. He feeds at his restaurant. He feeds folks in Clifton Park at his second restaurant, and he feeds them lobster rolls at Saratoga. That's Eddie Fazone, Eddie F. and his horse Butter, getting to the wire, coming up the rail, and delivering at a big 29-1.
Yeah, I mean, that was a trainer change. It was second off the Gary Siaka retirement, switched to E.K. Cantamarci, and, sat a good stalking trip. The horse improved a ton first time for Cantamarci off a layoff, and he improved again. He sat on the rail. Yeah, the rail was good, but he showed up. He ran. He won fair and square. I mean, I didn't have him. It's good to see a victory on a day like that for one of the local guys who has supported the game for a lot of years.
Yeah.
I love his restaurant. I love the theme. It's all his, because he names them butter, lobster,
Chowder.
chowder. I mean, like, how great. You can't not root for the guy.
Absolutely. And let's just give Gary some kudos. Gary Gary was a lifer, and he never got great horses, but that didn't mean he wasn't a good trainer. And he did well by his owners as well as he could, and he was loyal, and they were loyal to him.
That's what I love about Eddie F. is because he's not going to the big name. He's going to, you talk about a blue collar operation,
Amen.
A Mulberry Street operation, the 125th, what do they call it, where you get all the fish and you get all the Hunts Point Market. So
you were in the business.
Yeah, Hunts Point Market, Mulberry Street, blue collar. That's Eddie F. And those are the people and the trainers that he hires. They're kind of all cut out of the same mold. Bravo to him.
Yeah. Well, I think that we should let's talk the big race, the Belmont Stakes. The Golden Tempo won a pace heavy Belmont, Kentucky Derby, and he and Renegade ran 1-2. The Derby predicted to be a strong pace. I don't think most handicappers expected it to be as crowded and as fast up front as it was. Golden Tempo, perfect trip. Renegade, tougher trip. They run 1-2 in the Kentucky Derby. They both skipped the Preakness, let Napoleon Solo do his speed thing. And now we come to the Belmont Stakes, and we have a totally different potential pace scenario, not much speed, which everyone, I think, maybe everyone, which most folks thought would be to the detriment of both Golden Tempo and Renegade. Most folks anticipated Renegade to have significantly more tactical speed and to be less affected, and nothing could have been further from the truth as it played out.
You know, the winner was much the best. I mean, if they ran that race another eighth of a mile, he wins by 8 lengths. I mean, he's a horse that's built for the distance. He's steadily improving. It's not a very strong crop up to this point.
That's a discussion we'll have after we finish the race. Yes.
You know, Jose Ortiz gave him a masterful ride. The pace, like you said, was not that fast. I mean, it was honest. It was just, an honest pace. The Renegade had every chance to fire. He's in front of Golden Tempo in the stretch, and he couldn't keep pace. Neither could Brad Cox's horse that loomed.
Emerging market. Correct.
Not emerging market.
Not emerging market. Excuse me. You're right. Commandment.
Commandment had every chance, loomed, couldn't outfinish him. Like I said, a case of an improving horse that wants the distance against horses that don't want the distance, and he's just better than an below average crop. He's good. He's average. Everyone else at that distance at this point of the year is below average. And I wasn't going to pick him. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I should have picked him higher in the Derby and I didn't, but I wasn't going to, I missed the wedding and I wasn't going to the funeral, and I died anyway, just like all of us, many of us did, because we looked to beat him. And, hats off to Cherie DeVoe. I mean, what a training job. And what can you say? He was clearly best that day.
Yeah, it's funny, as we reflect on Derby, Preakness, Belmont, in my mind, I'm seeing the image of Trotter, Jay Trotter in Let It Ride, talking to people about who they like and crossing them out. And I'm thinking that in figuring out the Triple Crown, 2-year-old foundation, cross it out. Dosage, cross it out. 3 preps, cross it out. It's the now horse. It's the now horse that may be replacing all these tenets that we once followed.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Tom, I've been handicapping for so many years, and you have too. And, we do our work. We never mail in. I don't mail in my selections. I work very hard. So do handicappers like Andy Serling, Dave Aragona, Mike Beer, just to name a few. We work hard and we care about every pick we put out. But in the end, we're offering and selling an opinion. And, the gods of racing that day have to be good to us. And it's really as simple as that. You know, you can lose races at the start. You can lose races with wide trips, bad rides, but forget about the excuses. There's no excuses. It's that on that day or these days, we just didn't have it. And we're going to have it. There're going to be days when, I kill it. Okay. It just is, you just stay with what has made you where you are after all these years, and you're going to get your share of the pie. It's just that you never know when that lightning is going to strike. So many professionals picked against Golden Temper. Many. Okay. That's why he was 6-1, the Derby winner, right? People ducked him for the same reason that I ducked him, right? But in the end, he just proved to be the best horse of this crop on that day. And that's it. It's really, there's nothing more to say.
Yeah, yeah. I think the first conversation with Napoleon Solo nailing the Preakness and with the Belmont behind us is the early discussion about the Haskell, and that's 9 furlongs over what used to be and what can be a very speed favoring track at Monmouth Park, and that could shape up to be an interesting race. I do believe that there was a report that Golden Tempo will return to Keeneland and then come back to Saratoga for both the Jim Dandy and hopefully the Travers. How do you see? Where's your thoughts on the Haskell and getting ready for? The Travers will be the next big race for 3-year-olds after the Haskell. What are you seeing there?
I don't think they go to Monmouth because, like you said, it's speed conducive, just like the Preakness wasn't conducive to his running style. I don't know, who's lurking out there. Like we've seen kind of the 3-year-olds at this point have been exposed, right? I mean,
well, Crudeville, Baffert may not be talking about it, but the turf riders will talk about crude velocity stretching out. I mean, off the beating he took from Englishmen.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be confident in him stretching out in the Haskell. Maybe Baffert has something up his sleeve out west that he's going to bring in. You'll see some horses out of Churchill that'll come up. I don't know the cast of characters that are coming for the Haskell. We're going to obviously see new shooters, but what I've seen out there, Whit Beckman's horse, Otelli, yeah, is going to the Ohio Derby. The Ohio Derby. He's still a maiden on paper, and I don't know, like, even Mott's horse, who we liked in the Belmont,
Chief Wallaby.
Chief Wallaby had every chance to fire, and he came up snake eyes late in the race. So, I don't really, personally, I don't think about it until I see it's hard to know what horses are going to be in the starting gate, what the pace setup is. I don't project it that far ahead. I just hope that I do a better job handicapping those races than I did the Triple Crown.
Okay. So, we talked briefly on our pre-Belmont show about the new betting window for Saratoga. And I think with the Belmont behind us and with Saratoga um, in our view, that you really should talk about it again as the change that you're going to make for your customers and clients.
Well, the betting window, the basis of the betting window will remain the same: selections and wagering strategies. But I'm adding a few different things to it to help players. Strength of conviction.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very important when you handicap a race, how strongly you feel about it.
Well, I'm thinking about the betting window for the Travers card, which will be a 14 race or 15 race card, such as uh, this weekend's past Belmont State. It's impossible and unreasonable to have a strong opinion in every race on a 14 race card, right?
My opinion could vary on a three race card if there was ever a three race card. Um,
I
you
hope we
know,
don't go to that.
yeah, I mean,
So
look, yeah, go ahead.
no. So uh, once again, what you're doing is your intent is to refine how your opinion is expressed for the customer.
Yeah, like if I have just a moderate opinion on a race, it's basically a diamond system. So my opinion on a one diamond play is going to be different than a three diamond play,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're betting, for instance, a three diamond play is a crystal ball play, crystal ball best bet, and your bet is $50. Well, do on a one diamond play, I'm suggesting to bet, $15 if you're putting it in dollars, right? So basically, it's preservation of your bankroll through a
Mm-hmm.
day. It's just that day. Now, occasionally I'm going to give a play that I absolutely love, and when I love a play, I step out. And that play is a diamond scepter. And that's a play that doesn't happen every day. That would be the equivalent of a four diamond play. And so my strength of conviction. Now it can change after the update. The beauty of the
Right.
betting window is that I adjust the wagers based on late scratches. So now let's say on a play I made a one diamond play because there was a speed duel and I'm picking horse off the pace. I kind of like the race, but I don't love it. Now there's a late scratch of one of the speed horses. Now, that horse that I might have picked second, I move to first. It becomes not a one diamond play, but a three diamond play because he's
Mm-hmm.
loose on the lead. It gives me the ability to interpret the race differently and and give my interpretation to you on what I think is the strength of my conviction on the race. And that's just an added bonus that I feel people will benefit from.
Okay. Uh, you've been interviewing folks, um, and you've had some interesting conversations. I know you had Tom Morley and a brief interlude with his wife, paddock analyst Maggie Wolfendale. Um, who else you got in the hopper for interviews before we fold up for this weekend?
Well, I only had a brief, like 5 minute appearance of Maggie on Tom Morley's episode last week. She's going to be my guest on the next show. I would love 30 minutes with her. I want to know her
Okay.
process on what she does, how she does it. She's a very lovely person that has a great story. I'm working on getting Bob Dunham on.
There we go. Bob Dunham, you just woke up a lot of old time horse players.
I want to know. He knows where the bodies are buried, and I want to know. I want to know that too. Uh, a lot of people are not going to know who Bob Dunham
Right.
is, but after the interview, you will know. And when he won with a horse a couple years at Saratoga, and he stood behind and never got interviewed, I know we turned to each other and we said,
What?
we got to have him on.
That's right.
So he is one that is lurking in the near future. Jenna Antonucci, who herself won a Belmont Stakes.
There you go.
She won a race and almost won another race at a big price, and told me that I don't know how to handicap the other day because I didn't pick her horses on the board. Except one I did. One I picked second that won a maiden race. But she is an interesting character.
Good Italian girl is going to give you everything that you can handle.
Oh yeah, she already has in the 15 minutes I talked, and I'm going to find her a very interesting interview. We're going to interview many people during the summer.
Okay. Well, folks, the Belmont is in the books. We are going to witness the winding down of probably one of the best racetrack properties of all time, because I don't know anybody who trained over or raced over the aqueduct surfaces who didn't sing its praises. It's deep Queens. It's it's had its fair share of detractors, but we're gonna put it to bed, and then they'll come up here for the Saratoga meet, and then we'll prepare to celebrate the opening of the new Belmont Park.
There's one thing to leave you with that about Aqueduct that I'm very sad to see, but I want to see how it morphs into the new Belmont Park. Is my friend the Rastafarians that I hang out with at Aqueduct at the old Belmont. They're now going to have to go to the new Belmont and figure out where they're going to ply their trade and on what floor and where. And
well, the question is, will there be a relish bin? That's the question.
I sure hope there's something for them, because and some garbage cans they can bang their program on as the field turns for home. Because look, there was Aqueduct. There's no better place in the world that had characters, cartoon characters like Aqueduct. Yes. It was where we grew up, and like it's a part of history that is being chopped off from under the legs of us.
That's right.
that is gone. So I hope that Naira puts an oxtail soup area so that the Rastos have somewhat of a home there.
There you go. All right. Thank you all for joining us on Get Tied On. Remember, Get Tied On is the last phrase legendary starter Bobby Duncan said before he flipped the lever. He wanted his jockeys prepared. We want you to be tied on every time you go to the track. Be well.
Thank you.